She sent an email that she would not be here. Member Bryan.
Present.
Member DeLisa. I also got an email that that person would not be here today. Member
Fickus, but that's good, close enough. I'm here.
Member French.
Here.
Member Haynes.
Here.
Member Hannon.
Here.
Member Hickerson.
Present.
Member Lasanta.
Here.
Member Novick, we did get an email from him that he would not be here. Member Santiago.
Here.
Member Shimkus.
Here.
Vice Chair Harriet.
Here.
And Chair DeRico.
Here. Thank you, Joyce. And if I could just do a quick housekeeping item before turning it over to Mr. Basinger, is just as a reminder, if anyone would like to speak, if you wouldn't mind putting your placard up on its side, and just, it's a big group, so bear with Davison and I. If we don't see you right away, maybe just give a little hand wave, but we'll get to you as soon as we can. So I'd like to now turn it over to Mr. Colin Basinger. Thank you.
Hi, how are you all?
Very well, sir.
I'm trying to get Zoom open so I can loop in a couple of my staff members, but I guess I need a techie besides me. Okay, I need to log in the network.
Yeah, I don't think you can get internet access.
Okay. Well, if we can't, we can't. It is what it is.
Staying quiet. I caused no trouble last week this week.
Listen, I've got the gavel.
That's right. I'll hold him down, you hit him.
Probably that was here to Chambers.
I'm not sure it's going to work anyway because my verification.
Oh, you mean this place?
That's all you do. I don't know your username and passwords.
Yeah,
Is that for Zoom?
yeah. This from, well, I don't know. Is this?
Did it?
No, it's not Zoom. It's,
Okay, no, this must be trying to.
Well, originally it was
So,
quad player.
Yeah, let's just close this out and then go back to your Zoom. Yeah, there's your Zoom. Whatever your password.
yeah, except that it's telling me to get a code.
So we got that. He's open.
All right, let's see what's going on here.
Yeah, so they would have sent you a password. So
Theoretically,
find your Zoom.
yeah, I don't seem to have one, so.
Look what you wrote out here. I might have added it to your today's calendar.
Yeah.
Scroll down to your section.
Yeah.
Yep, there's your Zoom link right there. So
Okay.
put your mouse right there. Click on it.
Okay. Sorry, gang.
Okay, so open link.
Cool. That's wrong.
Isn't technology wonderful?
That's okay. It should work.
I don't have to all this time COVID.
No, it's connected.
Sign in.
There you go. Oh, okay, just sign in. Okay, click try again. Click try again.
Same thing.
Verify via one-time passcode.
But I don't know where I'm supposed to get the code from because there's nothing on the phone. And there's nothing on the email, so.
Here, go right, click over here.
Okay.
That might be, let's scroll, clear off this Excel map. Or go back to your calendar where you
Launch
clicked
meeting,
on the Zoom
launch
link.
meeting, launch meeting, launch meeting,
Oh,
launch meeting.
okay, launch meeting. Yeah, there you go. Oh, right here, get off here, click launch meeting.
He's under the microscope.
Open link, yes.
Link, I guess.
Try launching.
No, so click on the icon down at the bottom. It looks like the program's open.
Which icon?
The
Oh,
one at the
this
bottom,
one?
all the way down on the taskbar.
Nope, one all the way in the taskbar on the bottom where it says Zoom.
Next to my scissors.
To the left.
Right here.
Oh, that one. Okay. I got that. but I don't seem to have a code, so let's try resend.
let us know beforehand that you want to do this, we can set it up on our system, and we can send them the multi-camera view, so they'll see the full broadcast.
Yeah, that's not going to work.
Can you forward that email to one of your,
Is there a city laptop that he can connect through?
We're not set up for Zoom, that's what I'm saying, we know ahead of time.
what do you mean?
We could be set up for Teams right now, but I would have to get IT to load in Zoom and.
You should be able to open it in a browser on a laptop, even if you don't have an account with it.
Yeah, I'm the host is the problem.
Oh, you're the host.
Yeah. So that complicates. We're just going to tell my staff, forget it. I'm going to talk to you all, and we're done with it.
No,
I mean, if everybody's okay with that, I think it would be beneficial.
I can create a YouTube link. Does your staff have access?
That's a great idea.
I can send this to YouTube
5 or 10
live.
minutes.
Yeah, we're,
Okay.
I think the consensus seems to be that we're all okay giving it another 5 or 10 minutes because we do recognize the importance of the staff being included.
He's got 2 Zoom windows on that. Can you click on the second Zoom window? So click on the icon again at the bottom, hover over the icon.
This one?
Yep. And there's a second window over the right. Click on that.
Okay.
Host sign.
All right, host sign in.
Close that. Just close it. Close them all. Close them all.
Close them all. All right.
All the Zoom windows.
Need all the help I can get,
And then go down to
obviously.
the Zoom one again and close it again.
Okay, we're going to close everything. Coming back up.
All right, now close that again.
Close that.
And go back to your meeting invite. Click on the link.
Open link.
Yes.
Host sign in, which
Nope. There you go. Now you can.
I could always conference call them in too.
We use Google Meets as an option.
Back to where we were.
I've got consultants that use them all.
Yeah.
Our organization uses Microsoft, but I'm on a Google Meet a couple times a week and Zoom
No.
a couple times.
Yeah, so
You know, I don't want to waste your time. This is getting silly. We'll just,
Yeah. I've never had a problem with Google Meet.
Yeah.
I don't have a user. I don't have a user, and so I just join the link. It
Yeah.
worked every time.
Yes.
The only time we use it is if the partner up in Wisconsin sets it in, but then, like, you said.
We are on YouTube now, so if you can send your staff to the City of Deltona YouTube page.
Did it not let you log in?
no, it's for some reason it's not sending me a code. Okay, so email. Go to,
Yeah, so we're live now on YouTube.
No, that's scary.
The whole world can see us.
Deltona YouTube.
Will they be able to respond to this? Through
It's,
YouTube?
here's the address at City of Deltona TV.
City at City of Deltona TV. Just that.
Yep.
So if they want to respond, can they can't respond to that, can they?
Actually, it's
No, we never.
it's actually going to work better, assuming they get on.
Right? We do that all the time.
Excuse me, we have one of our committee members who's in technology, and he just offered to host a meeting if needed.
Well, if we can get them on the city of Deltona, we'll be all right.
All right.
Thank you, though. I apologize. I feel like a goofball. Technology is not my strength, clearly.
Yes, sir, we understand.
And you're not here for tech advice, though.
We might as well take that down, since you're just going to want me to type my notes if we...
So how's everybody doing tonight? My name is Glenn Whitman. I think most of you have seen me around somewhere or heard me talk. Welcome y'all tonight.
Thank you, Glenn.
Thank you.
Hopefully we can get this underway soon, and definitely the city is definitely looking forward to bringing in a new city manager.
Don't lie, you are.
Excuse me?
Don't lie, you are.
So I think this is going to be a good thing. It's going to take a little time. Mr. Bashinger is going to be talking about schedules and all that kind of stuff. So let me know when you're ready, sir.
I'm as ready as I'll ever be at this point.
I'll sit down and I'll talk too much.
No, I appreciate it, Glenn. And once again, I apologize.
That's
It's just...
okay.
Can I ask that you turn your mic on, please?
Yes.
Yeah.
There's a,
On-off button.
It's on.
It's on? Okay. Well, let me do that then. Okay. Once again, I apologize for my technical incompetence, and I don't want to hold you up anymore, so let's go to work. Basically, what I'm here to do tonight is get your input on the city manager search. We've got some basic questions we want to ask you, and then we also want to go over the timeline. I put some dates on the project schedule for Citizens Advisory Committee meetings. Now, they're just my guess that might work, and obviously you're the key players, so I need your input on those dates and if they are reasonable or whether we need to change them. So we can begin with the project schedule, probably would be best, and then we'll get on to the questions. So I guess the question is, how do the dates look to you? The next one would be, for example, we're meeting with the Citizens City Manager Committee tonight, and then we put another one out there for the 16th of January. Does that work for everybody, or is there a better date? I mean, I'm pretty flexible there. I don't necessarily have to meet on the 16th. Thank you. Well, we could. I took it out because I didn't want to watch everybody have.
Oh, okay. You could, yeah.
Everybody.
You want it back up on the screen?
Yeah, thanks.
The problem with the 16th is actually
Oh, that's a bad tie.
yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Yeah, okay. So, committee members, what's a good date for you? I'd like to try and keep it around the 16th.
Can we stick with the Thursdays?
Stay with Thursday,
So
the 18th.
Does that work?
Works for me. So
Yeah, me too.
just a show of hands, maybe.
Joyce, do we need a
Yeah, we should.
motion for that?
Change the date.
To have the meeting on the 18th? Okay, thank you.
The 18th would be fine with me.
Good.
I will not be here on the 18th, just
Okay.
to make a note.
If I could suggest, if everyone's in agreement, why don't we tentatively schedule it for the 18th, but we also have 3 people that aren't here this evening that I think we should check with as well.
Okay?
And then maybe we could throw out some alternate dates to see if there is a date that everyone is actually available.
Yeah. I could send out an email tomorrow or later tonight and suggest the 18th and get your reaction to it. And obviously, we have one member who can't attend, and that's not a good situation. But with 14 or 15 members, it may be difficult to get a date that works for everybody. So,
17th or 18th, both work that for me.
Would that be the same time?
yeah, well, how about the 17th?
That's good for me. That works for me, 17th, if possible.
17th is fine, too.
Okay.
I'm good.
Pencil it in.
There you go.
7th?
Yeah. Yeah, I should be able to do that. I have another meeting at 4, but I can make it happen, so, okay. And then going out a bit further, the basic process is for us as a group to put together a recruitment profile. So on the 17th, that would be the date that we would get back together with you after you've reviewed the draft and get your input to improve it, correct things if there's anything that's incorrect, so that we can move forward with the advertising and actual recruiting. Once we post it, what typically happens is the first week we get a few applications, the second week we get a few applications. The third week is when we get most of the applications, just before the closing date. I think people have a tendency to procrastinate a little bit, and then they make a decision at the last minute on whether or not they're going to apply. There's also a concern, of course, in Florida because of the Public Records Act. Their name may get out there, or will get out there, if the press covers this recruitment. And so the result is they may not want their name out any longer than absolutely necessary. So the bottom line is that we're probably not going to have much of a response the first 2 weeks. This third week is when we'll get the major part of the response. As those resumes come in, what we're intending to do is to forward them to you probably once a week, and we'll tell you who we think is qualified, most qualified, who we think is a possibility, and then who we think is not qualified. But you'll get a chance to review all the resumes, and you can ask me about them or any of my staff, and if I put somebody in a not qualified category and you disagree, we'll talk about it. I'm not perfect. Sometimes I miss things, and so I appreciate your input and would like it. Lately, we've found that we'll do an advertisement for 3 weeks. We'll get the candidates in, and we're recruiting, of course, calling people along the way. We'll get the candidates in, but we're not always seeing what we want to see at the end of 3 weeks. The quality of the pool is not always up to the level that we want it to be. And so there's, I would say, a very good chance that when it closes, we will turn around and reopen it for another 2 weeks. And what we've found over the years is that for some reason there are people that apply during that second 2-week window that did not in the first 2-week window. And we don't know why that is. We suspect that perhaps they're concerned about competing against an internal candidate. The fact of the matter is that when there is an internal candidate, there's a very, very high probability that the internal candidate will get the job. So many experienced city managers do not want to compete against internal candidates because it's kind of a waste of their time and exposure. So we find that the second 2-week period often will yield additional high-quality candidates, and we may find ourselves in that position. We'll see how it turns out. Sometimes we do need to do it, sometimes we don't, but I would say based on what I've seen lately, there's a high probability we will have to extend the deadline. Please don't put that in the newspaper. The next thing will be, once we see the candidates, we will vet them. We'll let you know who we think are the top candidates and who we're going to proceed to do our background checks on. Again, please, I'd like your input, and you can, I don't know that we need a meeting necessarily for that. You can just call me and talk to me about it. So once we do that, what we'll do is we'll go through them, we'll vet them thoroughly. It usually takes about 3 to 4 weeks. If we extend the deadline, we don't extend the recruitment, other dates in the recruitment. We just work a lot harder in the next 2 weeks to finish up those additional candidates. So the deadlines or these dates in this schedule would hold, even if we did extend the deadline. And what we'll do is we'll vet vet those candidates, and then when we're done vetting, we'll probably send you between 6 and 10 candidates. Excuse me. That'll be packages for 6 to 10 candidates. Each package will contain the candidate's cover letter, their resume, background checks, which are like criminal records, civil records, and DMV, credit, bankruptcy, verification of education, employment. Then there'll also be a social media check on the candidate, as well as internet research. In other words, we'll go into the internet and see what's published by newspapers. In some cases, we do provide blogs. In many cases, we don't, because, frankly, often bloggers have an axe to grind. They're not happy with the candidate, and they're just angry. And so we don't always provide those. If we see something significant, we'll let you know about it. But we do try to get reputable sources. So we'll have that, and then the final item will be reference checks, where we tell the candidates who we want to speak with. So we'll give them a list of like all of their current elected officials, some prior elected officials, the city attorney, the external auditor, some community activists, some subordinate employees, some colleagues, some newspaper reporters or media coverage people, if we can get them to talk to us, the HR director, so on and so forth. There's probably a couple of others that I've left out. The tricky thing with that is sometimes a candidate's trying to maintain confidentiality, which we don't advise in Florida because everything's in public record. So we just basically tell them there's a good chance their name's going to get out anyway. But some candidates want to try anyway, and so we will work with them on their references to a certain degree, as long as we get enough references and get a good variety. But just to give you a heads up, we tell the candidates who we want to talk to, and then ask them to provide the names and telephone numbers. So that's the final piece of the package. In other words, you're going to get a cover letter, a resume, a candidate introduction where we ask them a series of about 16 standard questions and ask them to respond to it. We tell them we don't want them to give us anything over about 6 pages because it's just too long, and your time's valuable, my time's valuable. So we tell them to be, brief and to the point, and in part it's a test of whether or not they can do that, and also whether or not they can write. So going back again, cover letter, resume, answers to questions, background checks, references, and then media checks. That'll all be, each candidate will have a package that contains that material. We'll send it to you. We'll give you a week to look at it. We'll, of course, copy the commission at the same time. And then we'd like to meet again with you roughly around March 13th to decide on which, ideally, 5 candidates you're going to recommend to the commission that they decide to interview. The question, of course, is everybody available on March 16th? 13th, I'm sorry. Thank you.
It may be easier to ask if there's anybody that's not available on March 13th.
We may not know yet either. We might have to decide a little closer to time.
Okay, well, let's go with that for now. We'll do a follow-up memo, and if anybody discovers they can't meet, then there's a couple of possibilities. We could get your input individually and then share it with the committee, or we could pick a different date. If we're not able to come to a different date, then we'll probably have to get the input and share it with the committee. We could also possibly have you participate by some media platform where the city hosts the meeting as opposed to me. So then after that, what will happen is, once you've made the recommendation, the commission, of course, has to confirm that recommendation. About 2 weeks later, there'll be interviews, and the finalists will come to the city. We normally have them take a tour of the city, get to meet the senior staff, and then have a public reception where all of you and any other interested resident or party can come to this reception and meet the candidates one-on-one. Reception normally lasts about an hour and a half to 2 hours, and we say an hour and a half, but we don't really lock it down after an hour and a half. So if you still have questions to ask the finalists, you can do so. The next day, we have one-on-one interviews with the city commission. It's kind of like speed dating. One candidate will meet with one commissioner, and then after about 40 minutes, they'll rotate to another commissioner, another 40 minutes to another commissioner, until they've met all of the commission members. My theory, and it's proved out over the last 25 years, is that good candidates will have good chemistry with your current commission. They'll have good chemistry with future commissions. Candidates that don't have good chemistry with the commission, this commission won't have good chemistry with the next one. So we feel the one-on-one interviews are very, very important. They let that commissioner look them in the eyes and really see if they're comfortable working with that person. Of course, it's only 40 minutes, so it's a little bit of a guess, but it's better than not having that contact at all. And then we also have them come in and interview with the full commission, where the public can obviously watch. And if you like, assuming the commission approves, we can take questions from the public. The way we do that normally is have it written on a public comment card, handed to me. I can screen it to make sure it's a legal question. And sometimes I have to, get a little help so I can understand the question and give it to the commissioners to ask.
What sort of pool are we looking at for finalists?
Do you want to ask on the microphone? I'm sorry, I could hear you, but I just wanted to make sure everybody else could.
What size pool are we looking at for finalists?
Probably 6 to 10, and then you'll hopefully pick 5. We don't get upset if you only pick 4. We do worry if you pick less than 4. I mean, a lot of people like 3, but the fact of the matter is people drop out, and I've seen this happen a couple of times where people will say, "Oh, I only want to pick 3." And so they pick 3, and then 2 of them drop out, and then you're left with 1. And obviously, that's not a good situation.
Thank you. I believe Carolyn also has a question.
There was a discussion previously that wasn't made completely clear. The cost for each candidate and the vetting of that, isn't there a cost associated with the number of candidates that we're going to vet for?
There is a cost, obviously. We find that it usually costs, if it's an in-state candidate, you're probably looking at $500 to $600 to bring them in, between mileage, hotel, meals, that type of thing. If they're an out-of-state candidate, you're probably looking at $1,000 to maybe $1,500. Typically what we see is you'll have 3 in-state candidates and maybe 2 out-of-state candidates. So you're looking at somewhere between $5,000 and $7,000 to bring the candidates in. And the question is, do you want to spend that money? Well,
Yes, we do.
the bottom line is, if you want the candidates to come, you pretty much have to pay for them, because they'll say, hey, these guys aren't serious about getting a good manager if you're not going to pay for it. And the bottom line is, it's a relatively small cost compared to, ideally, this manager is going to stay for 5 to 10 years, and that's our goal. I'm not happy unless a manager we place stays at least 5 years. So spread it out over 5 years, and it's not a big investment. Other questions?
Yes, sir, if I may. Does anybody have a question immediately before I jump in with one? All right, if I may ask, so will the commission only select from the pool of candidates that this committee moves forward?
You know, commissions often have a mind of their own. The answer is probably, but I can't guarantee it.
Okay. And then you had mentioned 40 minutes, that the candidates would be meeting with the commissioners for 40 minutes. Is that each or in totality? They're meeting with all commissioners for a total of 40 minutes or?
It's each.
Okay,
Yeah.
great, thank you.
Yeah.
I know we had well, at least in my opinion, I think our last city manager, there was each commissioner up on the dais had, I think, like 7 minutes, and it just, to me, it just didn't seem like enough.
I agree with you. Yeah, I mean, we really want them to get some kind of a sense of whether they're comfortable meeting with the candidates or not. I mean, working with that candidate. And I really think looking them in the eye and asking them questions tells a lot. And I've seen situations, there was one in Riviera Beach a number of years ago where the consultant brought the candidates in, and one of the candidates, and all they did was a commission interview. And one of the candidates did a bang-up job, and I mean, he was very impressive. It wasn't my firm, by the way, that did this. But he lasted about 18 months and was a first-rate disaster. And I think if they'd met with him, I mean, they obviously didn't vet him very well either. But if they'd met with him one-on-one, I think they would have had a better result. So.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Davidson.
You say in the packet that you're going to provide the background that you guys have done and the media searches that you guys have done. Based off of the last meeting and public comment from other commission meetings, know that there will be searching done by this committee.
I hope so.
Will there be a point for the committee? At what point will the committee be able to bring what they have found together?
That would be once we produce the materials at the meeting where we pick finalists. That would be the best place for you to do that. And I frankly hope you will do homework on the candidates, because, you know, I've got, 14 people here that can help. And so if there's something I miss, it's a double check. We don't miss much, but it can happen. And so anything that you can turn up is great. We're not saying you have to do the research, because we're going to do it. Theoretically, it's going to be perfect, but it doesn't hurt to have people looking at it.
Because of the importance of that March 13th meeting and all of that discussion taking place, I think it'd be best for us to set that date in stone now, 2 months, almost 3 months ahead of time.
Yeah.
So that committee members can make sure that they're able to be present.
Yeah, we will do that. I'm good with the 13th. If everybody else is, then that's fine, and then we'll just have to check with the other 3 that aren't here.
I think everyone in this room indicated they were good. Joyce, will you check with the other 3 that are not here this evening?
Yeah, I also need to check to make sure the chambers is actually available.
Good point.
Big note for all of you.
Yep, all right, thank you.
And just a note, by the way, the 17th is not a good day because we have P&Z in here.
Okay.
17th, so it has to be the 18th if you're going to do it.
In
That was
March
the
or
January
January?
date, Glenn? That was the
March.
January date? or-
No, March. We're talking March.
Right.
Right, but we had initially said January 17th for our next one.
Yeah, I just wanted to bring that up
Yes.
before we moved on.
Yeah, I'm talking about the March 13th date that's listed on the.
Right.
Yeah, that one's good.
That's good.
Okay. Perfect.
It's the January date.
Okay. So we move on to the next topic?
Well,
Or,
go
please?
ahead, Kathy, sorry, didn't see your placard up over there.
Yeah, we're in the corner.
So, remind me, and I'm sure it was in the paperwork, if we choose a candidate, the commission says this is the one we want, and it turns out the candidate doesn't work
Accept.
out. What's the time limit for you guys to pick up and continue a search that
Ideally, what would happen in that situation would be that there'd be 2 or 3 other candidates that the commission likes as a second and third choice. However, if that's not the case, we'll turn right around and then there's a couple of possibilities. We could go back into the pool. Say we gave you 8 candidates, they picked 5 to interview, 1 they liked but didn't work out. For some other reason, they didn't want any of the other 4, then we could look at the other 3. Alternatively, we could go back out and advertise, and if we do that, then we basically have a similar timeline. We just have to repeat it. Obviously, we don't have to redo the brochure, but we would just top right back on it and do it again, and there's no additional cost for that. Our deal is that we guarantee that we'll provide a candidate to the city that the city's thrilled about, and if it takes 1 search, great, that's good for me, but if it takes 2 or 3 times out, then that's what it takes.
I wasn't sure, is there like a time limit, 6 months, a year, that we would?
That's what I thought you were asking.
Yeah.
Oh.
So after a candidate is hired,
Oh.
what's
If
the
they don't
guarantee?
last?
Yeah, what's the guarantee?
1 year. Yeah.
So if the candidate leaves after 1 year, there's no warranty, so to
There's
speak?
no warranty, but, depending on the circumstances, we'd probably work with the city to work something out.
Did we reconfirm January? I missed that.
We did not.
We did not, so I would suggest, since that's obviously more imminent than the March meeting, if we already established that the 16th doesn't work, the 18th, I think we heard, was not available. The 18th is
Oh, the
available.
17th is not as...
Thank you.
Is there some other place we could meet, or does it...
This is a pretty large group, yeah.
Okay. Gotcha. Okay.
Did we want to look at Thursday, the 18th? Is Thursday, the 18th not good for any, or I know, Joyce, you're going to need to,
Use it.
January 18th is available.
but that was, I think, Emma, you were not available
Yeah.
the 18th.
Yeah.
I'm not either.
Okay, Larry's not either?
We can't do, what about the 17th? You said this room is not available. Can we not use the center?
Well, the thing is the video, because we're videoing the playback on TV and all that.
And the 15th is Martin Luther King Day.
Something that would leave the 19th.
The 19th is a Friday. Does anyone object to Friday, the 19th?
I just,
Yeah.
because of the size of the group that's already been mentioned, can we set we are not going to get everyone at every meeting. That's just not going to happen. So can we set if we can get 80%, 90%, can we set a goal for that at least so that we know, okay, if 3 people can't come, we're still going to meet, because if we do this, we're going to be doing this date
You're
thing
right, yeah,
for the next
that's a
3
great point,
weeks.
Troy.
September.
Right.
Well, you have the majority on the 18th.
On the
so
18th.
Just go for it.
All right.
No, that's okay. Hey.
Well, and as I said, we'll try and get your input. We'd like to get your top 5, and we can submit it to the committee now. I don't know.
If we set something up, I guess my answer is no, guys.
If you have an iPhone, you can do it from your iPhone.
I'll be out of the country, but we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, don't worry about it.
I can try.
Well, and this is a perfect reason why I wanted to get the March meeting
March date,
set in
yeah.
stone.
The March is good. Yeah, I'm good
The
with
March
that.
meeting is the meeting where we come together to discuss actual candidates,
Right.
not the January meeting.
All right,
no,
so
I agree. Yeah.
we're good with January 18th?
Yeah.
Okay. Kathy?
Sorry. The question just almost left my head. Oh, So when we talked about people being like out of, not being able to make a meeting, and you talked about being able to call you and stuff like that, I just want to verify, are we allowed to do that? Because I know like a lot of the communications, Joyce wants everything should go through Joyce, so
I just need to be copied on everything so that it stays in the city system, and it's basically city business, so if I get a public records request for it, if
So
you're just doing it directly with him, I wouldn't know.
Okay, so if somebody can't make a meeting, they can talk directly as long as, or the email, as long as we copy you.
As long as you copy me, I'm good.
Perfect. I
Yep.
just wanted to make sure, because I don't want
And don't hit reply all, please.
Okay.
And Kath, did that answer your question, Kathy? All right. And Joyce, if it's a phone call, would we just email you? So, okay, thank you.
Yeah, I think phone calls would be fine if we generate, the January 18th meeting will be just to give comments on the profile. So, they'll all end up in the final version. So I don't think there's a real problem there. I think it'd be more of a concern maybe on the March meeting.
All right, I think if there are no other questions, we can move on to topic B, the discussion.
Sunshine Law, I understand you've already been briefed on it. The only thing I would say is it's relatively straightforward as far as I'm concerned. You can't talk to each other outside the meetings. You can't use a go-between. You can't send email. It just has to be done at the meeting.
Specifically about the topic of the committee. If it's going to be voted on, it cannot be discussed amongst committees outside of the committee.
Exactly. Thank you.
Specifically on items that are going to be voted on.
Good thing is I don't know any of them.
Yet.
But there could be other conversation outside of this meeting.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
You can talk to your neighbors, you can talk to your coworkers, talk to whoever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Thank you. Thank you for the clarification. That's all I had on the Sunshine Law. I just wanted to make sure everybody was kind of aware of it and understood.
Very good. Excellent. Right, so I think we're ready to move on to discussion of what makes Deltona a great place to live, work, play, and be the city manager.
Mm-hmm.
Would you like to kick that off, sir? Or you just want to open it up for comments?
I just open it up for you all to give me ideas.
All right, why don't we, just to maybe keep it orderly, is everybody cool? Maybe Troy, if we start with you and just work our way around?
Are we sticking to just this one question, or all three questions at one time, or how do you want to do that?
Well,
let's do one at a time, if we could, please.
Okay.
Do you have a suggestion?
Yeah, and also, if there are other things that don't fit into these three categories, I think they should be mentioned as well, so.
You want to do it after these three or during one of these three?
After probably would be best.
Works for me. So on the topic of what makes Deltona the place to come live, work, play, and all of that, I think for me personally, it comes down mostly to the very diverse and interesting community here. This is a community of a lot of different backgrounds, a lot of different creeds and races and interests and political ideologies and all of that, which in places I've lived before, we're a lot more homogeneous in those areas. So I think that's a very unique thing that I've experienced personally. Mm-hmm. As far as the city itself, I believe this city offers a rather substantial natural connection in terms of the parks we have and the amenities we have in those parks. Not all of our parks are substantially concreted over with fixtures and things. We have a lot of open green spaces and trails, and I know in our previous economic development office, we had a focus on what we were calling ecotourism at the time. And I think there's a uniqueness in Deltona for that, between all the trail connections where you can be in a very rural part of the city and be able to access those trails and those amenities, and then a few miles to the to one side and you're at I-4 with 3 big interchanges that gets you back into close to Disney and Daytona Beach and Orlando and all these other places. So I think, the unique situation of our city in terms of a rounding between all those different cities, right? Because you can get to any of those places very quickly, very easily. So it does put us in a unique location for being able to access amenities outside of our city. And so I think, those are the things that I think of mostly when I come to Deltona, and what makes it worth being here and wanting to stay here, and putting all the effort and energy I do put into this community. And I think on top of that, in the same vein, we have substantial opportunities to invest and even further that, especially on our lakefront area, where we have an amazing potential trailhead that could become a legacy-defining feature of the city that has not been fully realized yet, in my opinion. So I'll leave it at that before I pontificate too much here. But that's kind of where I'm at with what makes the city to be the place to be.
Great, go ahead, Emma.
All right. Well, those are some of the topics that I had as well. Definitely, one of the things is we are the largest city in Volusia County, right, with over 90,000 that are living here. I think it's of a diverse community. We rich in culture, and definitely have a lot of potential that we can invest in our community, along with what Troy said, with the environmental and the trails, and we are unique. We are in a unique situation where we're at. We're right in between Orlando and Daytona, where we're centrally located, close to I-4. So those are some of the items that I had to share.
Now, I'm going to need to run out to the restroom for just a second, if that's okay. I'm sorry.
Yes, sir. Why don't we take a 5-minute recess?
Sounds good.
Zoom, if we all want to grab our seats. Let's go, Vice Chair. That's right, that's right. I think, Emma, did you want to go ahead and finish? I think you were...
I think, yeah, no, I finished it up, just, like I said, real quick, Troy I know, he stole all my stuff, but...
The benefit of going first.
We're very unique, and I think we're centrally located with one of the top, what was I going to say? The most residents in, the biggest city in Central Florida, or in Volusia County.
Second in Central Florida.
Second, that's true.
You're a pretty good
Yes.
big city overall.
We are a big city.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very big.
All right.
I mean,
Excellent. Edwin?
As being one of the beneficiaries of the Parks and Recreation, I think that's an area that the city has to tremendously improve. I happen to be a member and I guess the Vice President of Operations for the Senior Softball League. And it's been operational since 1987, so it's been there for a long time. The parks are great. The city provides us, good support. But there's more parks that need to be, brought to the level of competition. And I participated like 4 years or 6 years ago in a nice round meeting about the future development of a park, which will have had 4 parks in it, concession stand in the center, blah, 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 and never seen anything about it. So I think that's one of the issues that has to be addressed as the city continues to grow. We need more facilities for the growing community in order to participate in sports. Sound mind, sound body. Her father-in-law participates in the league. He's 81. We got a lot of older people who like to participate, but it's limited the amount of teams available that they can't really play. Anyway, that's one of the major areas that I have the major concerns of Parks and Recreation. They're doing a good job so far, but limited resources. They need to improve their ability to expand. I think the park that they promised, they need to be in the horizon in a short period of time.
okay. And we'll get to more of the issues. That's the second question, so we'll follow up with that. Thank you.
I happen to agree with everything that everyone has already said. I believe that we are a community with a lot of potential that has not been realized yet. And I think that part of that parks and seniors and things like that we're just not meeting our potential. But what I also think is very unique about us is the number of colleges we have. If we have a candidate who's raising a family, we are in a perfect location. I put a list down: Stetson, Deltona, Seminole, Rollins, Full Sail, which is really a pretty amazing college for young people to attend. That we're in a very unique location for further education for other people. If they're raising a family, if they have young people that are coming up, they have a real opportunity. Our school system is a very diverse school system, and we have our problems because kids are kids, But as far as our education system is concerned, our teachers they're top notch. Our teachers are very well educated and they really care about their students. I had the opportunity to raise my grandson for a number of years here and went through elementary school, middle school, and he started high school before returning back to his parents. And I know that all the teachers that I rubbed up against and I worked in the school system were very, very committed to excellence. And so I like that about our community as well.
Great. Thank you, Carolyn. Member Courtney?
I am in agreement with everything that everyone else just said. I don't think I could add really to any of that.
If everybody could speak into the microphone, that would be great. You got me, now I'm going to ask you to do the same.
I think everyone said
Okay,
what I would.
thank you.
Member Terry?
You guys took mine. Everything was said, basically. The only other thing I would say is when I've dealt with, like city staff with a question or whatever, I would say that the staff for the city have always been pleasant and willing to try and help you figure it out. You know, not every governmental city office that I've been in is like that, so it's nice when I don't walk in feeling like it's going to be an adversarial conversation. And then also I think the other part is that residents who care, if you follow Facebook, we all know that there are some very passionate people in our city. Agree with them or you don't agree with them, they're very passionate about where they live and they have the best interest for the city at heart. I truly believe that. The passion that can come out sometimes at the commission meetings when you sit here and watch and listen, again, we aren't always going to all agree, and that's what makes us human. But I think that to me is a big deal, that we have people that really are that passionate and adamant, for bettering our city. Other than that, everything else that everybody said was basically what I had listed too.
Great, thank you. Member Larry?
Yeah, again, some of the same comments from everybody else, but also as a place to live, it's unique. It's definitely not Orlando, and the quality of life here is so much better than anywhere further south of us and to the east and the coast. We have a great possibility for really having nice environmental types of atmosphere and ambiance that are a lot of envious. They're envious by other communities that have overbuilt and done worse than we have. And our schools are pretty good too, which is a really good thing for families and prospects in that area. As far as work is concerned, we have opportunities for commerce and business depending on the vision and the direction that's sought, which is something encouraging. It's like it's a fertile field to be developed and worked on, which somebody could really look forward to that if they're going to be that kind of a leader. And as far as play, we do have a very good parks program here. There's a lot of diversity in our types of parks. I've had some involvement in it, so I know about some of the different aspects of it, the recreational activities that are available, the trails that some other people have mentioned, the festivals, also the possibility and the prospects of utilization of the center. So we've got a lot of great possibilities for a manager who's looking with a vision and the energy to help develop our city.
Excellent. Member Jeff?
Thank you. So I want to thank everybody because everything that you all said was great, and I just want to put some emphasis on location, location, location. We have the best location. We're halfway from everywhere we need to go. So that was one. That's awesome. I built my house here in '97 on Lake Louise. Love it. Everybody, not going anywhere. Put 3 girls through college. They went right over here. Took the classes over here and finished up at UCF. Got 2 in Italy, 1 in New York right now. So the schools are good. Location's great. They do a great job at Dewey Booster up there. Halloween, everything that they're doing. I think it's just getting better. And there's a lot room for growth. I like the lakefront idea. I'm a water guy. So, but yeah, good city. Just got to polish a few diamonds in the rough, that's all.
Excellent, thank you. Member Kathy?
Next time you'll have to start on this end.
I was thinking.
Because by the time you get here.
I was thinking the same thing, that it's not fair.
How do you think we feel? We've got to go last.
I say I know as soon as Troy was in. So, okay, I'm just gonna kind of put a couple of things in a different perspective. A couple of you have already mentioned this. We have a lot of opportunities for growth. And I think that if somebody is looking, somebody who loves innovative ideas and challenges, I think this is, as somebody said, fertile ground. This is a good place to kind of, put your ideas to practice. It's a place for you to grow as a city manager. And then there's also the point of, and Mr. Haynes mentioned, like the Facebook stuff. Honest to goodness, if anybody watches any of the commission meetings, they're going to go, well, I'm not going there. But what they're not seeing, and I think they need to understand, is the day-to-day operations of this city. You've got a lot of really good staff who work well together, who work to get things done in this city. And, it's an opportunity to work with some really great people. And, so far as we got the beaches, we got the theme parks and the waterways, et cetera, but we've got also got a lot of quaint surrounding areas. I mean, this is a place, you've got the Space Coast not too far away. You've got Old DeLand. You've got Blue Spring. You've got a lot of places that may not be actually in Deltona. But if you're going to come here and live in Deltona, you've got access to all these different places that you're just not going to find anywhere else. So that's my thoughts.
Great, thank you. And Vice Chair Davison?
Thanks, Tara. Everybody has covered the majority of it, but I think all of these pieces will really give a new city manager the opportunity to make an impact and build their own legacy. Location is huge, halfway between Orlando and Daytona, 30 minutes from everywhere, basically, 45 if it's rush hour. One of the unique things that I think about, everybody has mentioned different ones, is the fact that we are the second largest city in Central Florida, but we're primarily residential. And depending on how a new city manager looks at that, they have the opportunity to really guide the city in a direction, a couple different directions. This is a great opportunity for a younger candidate that wants to grow a family. And what Kathy had mentioned, I think, is very, very important about the passion in the residents and the involvement in the residents. Sure, it'd be easier for a city manager or candidate to come in and not have involvement from the community. They can get the job done without, answering questions, or probably spend a few less hours a week or a day on answering public records requests. But when something comes up, that involvement from the community and that passion should be looked at as an asset, and I think that's important.
Great, thank you. And for me, again, echo what everyone already said, right? And I think, though, too, that this is a turning point for our city, and this is really a great opportunity for a city manager to come in and to provide the vision, the strategy, and the stability that our city really needs, right? They can, it's kind of a blank slate, right? Our city has been unstable for a little while, and this is nothing against the city managers that we've had previously, but we can all acknowledge we've had a lot of turnover, right? So every time we start to make momentum, we then experience that setback. So we do have a lot of opportunity for someone to really come in and make their mark by providing that stability. And I think the biggest benefit for a city manager is that opportunity to in 5-10 years from now, have a phenomenal story to tell, and to really be able to carve out their place in our city's history, to look back and say, hey, this is where the city was when I started, and this is how far we've all come together in the process. Exactly. Look what I could do. Look what I did.
I love it.
All right, so I think the next topic, if no one has anything else to add, is moving on to what challenges will the incoming city manager face? And Kathy, you asked for it. We're going to start with you, and we'll go around the opposite way.
Oh, no. Okay, so far as Deltona's challenges, I think we have a lot of them, but I think they're workable challenges. Right now, we're lacking solid leadership, and we need to put that back into place with common goals that not only align for what's good for the city, but like residents' desires as well. We as it's been mentioned over and over again, the residents have a lot of input in this city, and it can be used as an asset. And I know I'm being repetitive here, I apologize. But we've got a lot of really smart folks out there. So
I'm sorry, you said there were a lot of something.
Smart folks out there, sorry. That, so rather than look at them as a burden, look at them as you said, an asset. We desperately need infrastructure improvement. We are so far lagging behind and have been for years. That's gonna have to be kind of one of the number one things that's gonna need to be worked on. We've had disjointed commissions. While the city manager serves at the commission's pleasure, the city manager, is going to have to be able to stand up to them with the right things to do. So there's working with the commission can be a challenge. We've had unchecked growth without solid planning, good planning, and so I think we've been talking about an overhaul of the land use code that hasn't happened yet. So these are all things that the city managers can be walking into. And then the other thing is, as Tara stated, we're primarily residential. We lack a commercial base. So to me, that's a challenge about getting commercial business here outside of your dining and entertainment and your, the repetitive stuff that we have over and over again, to get some good like light industry and things like that to increase our tax base. Those are just a few, and I've only touched on really some of the highlights, but I think those are some of the biggest challenges, and then learning how our city works. So.
Thank you, Kathy. Member Jeff?
You hear me?
Yes, sir.
So I'm only going to touch on one because it's based on where I live, and that's code enforcement. Code enforcement. When you build and you love where you're at, and you look across this catty corner from your house, and they're bringing their value down $10,000, $15,000. It's called in. There's pictures sent in, and someone said at on Monday night's show I was watching that they're stopping by, don't know the code. I'm not saying they don't. I wasn't there. I can't discredit anybody. But somebody's got to hold people accountable. I got a neighbor who moved from Bronx. In New York, they push everything to the street cleaner. Out in the streets, and they clean it. That doesn't happen in Deltona. But everything's getting pushed to the street. There's 3 boats on the side of the house. There's 2 cars up on bricks. There's a boat on the back that you can see. I'm just using this one example because if you drive around and you see those homes that are grooming their houses and take pride, you get retirees. Their day is making sure things look good. For what? To drive through a bad-looking neighborhood? I just think put trackers on them. Make sure they're not sitting behind a Walmart, not doing nothing. Explain to them how to talk to people. That's what I do. I'm not wanting the job. I'm just saying, but explain to them, how to handle certain things. If you think it's going to be tough, have somebody ride with them. That's my own thing. Code enforcement. That's what I think we could do. If the city's getting bigger, we've got a lot of potential. keep it clean. I mean, you're going to have your areas, but keep it clean. That's all I got to say.
Great, thank you very much. Member Larry?
Yep, I agree with all the things that Kathy and Jeff also mentioned, especially because of the size of our city. The problems are going to seem to be immense, and we're going to need a manager who can go about cohesively molding all of the commission together with a like vision, and with the departments to have them unified in the actions that need to be taken to reduce the fragmentation and the negative effects of our diversity that can work so well to make our city work better. The public image is going to be something he's definitely got to work with, because the media has painted us up to look like a bunch of clown shows every time we have commission meetings. So a lot of work has got to be done to change that perception and to regain the public trust, so that the public who come, which is fantastic that more and more people are trying to be involved, can understand that they can be heard, and that the things that they're bringing to attention to our commission and to our city are being heard, and that positive action is being taken, so that we can bring our city up to par with a lot of the other cities in Volusia. Since we are one of the biggest, we should be able to acquire a lot more than what we're able to get in some of the aid and assistance that we get from other entities. And another area is in our planning development, as Jeff was talking about. We have a lot of revamping that needs to be done, because our zoning and how our development has worked over the past 40-some years, we've gotten ourselves into a predicament to where our biggest asset for any kind of income for our city's revenue is through residential, and this needs to be balanced out to more possibilities for commercial growth that's not going to conflict or deter from our quality of life and how Deltona has been in the past. And this rezoning needs to have an adherence to a lot of the problems that have been ignored and have contributed to some of our infrastructure that definitely has to be brought up to code much more, because of the water issues that we're going to be dealing with in the coming years, not just because of runoff and flooding from storms, but also because of drinking quality water that is going to be a future issue and a bigger concern growing up here in Florida. Those infrastructure upgrades are something that definitely need to be made, and also looking at ways that the city can reduce its liability to suit and other problems from some of these failures of our infrastructure. Areas like the Beachdale area and some others that were areas of low property, but because of our zoning, which is why all of this has to be revamped and the comp plan adhered to, where construction and building was permitted in areas that were destined to be flooded when we had conditions that we've had in the past few years. So these are areas that a manager is going to need to really deal with in that communication, and also to foster more of an acceptance and a follow-through on the recommendations and the comments that are made by advisory boards. I've had past experience being on advisory boards with the city, and oftentimes this public eye and ears to the community that hears a lot and garners a lot of information, when it's passed on to the rest of the city for its various departments, it's not always listened to or adhered to, and we need a manager who's going to hear these kinds of things and try to pass these things on so that he, the departments, and our commission can work together with the same kind of vision to solve all these problems and make them into more positive situations than what they seem to be. I know that's an earful, sorry.
That was all great. Thank you very much. Member Terry? Oh, sorry.
Member Terry?
Okay, so they took a lot of mine again, but thank you for starting on this side. So I would say that two things. One, they're going to have to deal with a commission that, the only way I can say it, and I don't mean to insult any of our commissioners, but it's a very abrasive group many times. We've seen that with the, as far as just communicating with the citizens, but also with the city manager. So I think that's going to be a challenge that this person's going to have to be, I don't want to take Tara's word, but you had said earlier about thick skin, and I really, really think that's going to be huge for this person. They're going to have to be willing to really deal with a lot of garbage in the beginning to kind of help get things sorted out and cleaned up. The other thing is that there is a lot of negativity in our city. I'll go back to Facebook on that because that's the reason I started coming to meetings, because I am so sick and tired of the drama and the garbage, whether it comes from the dais or from out here. I'm really tired of it. And that poor person that we do bring into this city is going to deal with a lot of this stuff. So they're going to need to be, one, be able to handle it, but also it's going to be kind of a PR campaign to get the commission and the citizens and, basically everybody needs to start working together. That's going to be a really big challenge for whoever comes on board. And then the other thing is, that, and I know I've heard people say this before, a lot of people, back up here. A lot of people drive out of our city to work. They go into Orlando. My offices are in Orlando. I'm in the event business, so it kind of makes sense by the convention center. But there are so many opportunities that, aren't in the city of Deltona, which does impact the tax base. It also impacts our citizens because we're driving 30 or 40 minutes for work. So that's just something else that they'll deal with. But my biggest thing is going to be pulling our community back together, and we do look like a clown show when the media, or if you watch some of the meetings, it really is ridiculous. So this person's going to have to deal with quite a bit of that. That's it for me.
Excellent.
It will be interesting to see how we put that in the brochure.
Member Courtney?
So again, a lot of the stuff was already said. A couple of the big things that I think are really important. We've talked about the infrastructure and how we want to handle that and pulling in commercial business. I think the biggest thing, though, is evaluating the type of commercial business that's being brought in and ensuring that it's something that's not going to continue to maintain the level of quality that we currently have. The small box stores, the lack of good restaurants. While one of the pros that everyone talked about was that we can drive to places surrounding Deltona to get what we want, that to me is also a con. I can't go to a restaurant near if I want to eat healthy or anything, I have to drive 30 minutes out of the way to do it, 20, 30 minutes to DeLand, Sanford, things like that. The other big thing, too, is, there's been several commission meetings focusing on topics around water and drainage, and I know that in and of itself is a whole department within the city, but really having the city manager focus on making moves towards improvements on that and working with that department to make that happen. I think that we've talked about, projects that were never completed and they keep getting pushed back, but there's got to be some change that can happen to show the community that the city cares about them and their homes and making those improvements. And those are the two that I had.
Great, thank you, Courtney. Member Hickerson?
My turn.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I see several things that are going to be a challenge. One, he or she is going to have to come in here and be able to put their teeth into conflict resolution because we have a lot of conflict. They need to come in as politically neutral. A lot of it is differences of R&Ds, and I just need to see somebody who can embrace all of the citizens and be a little bit neutral in that. Don't judge our passions as a negative. We are a passionate city, and passions get heated and get raised and voices get raised, but that's not necessarily a negative thing. With the proper person with the proper vision, he can tame that lion, he or she can tame that lion a little bit. Also realize that citizens need to be heard and respected. And our dais needs to be heard and respected. they don't respect each other sometimes, and that bleeds down to the citizens feeling disrespected, and that's a challenge. We want to be able to have someone who can bring us together and unify us, somebody who's willing to take that mantle and do that. Also understand that we are mostly a rental community. We're becoming more of a rental community. And so we're going to have those kind of challenges with renters because they're in and out. They're not necessarily homeowners. And so we have those kind of challenges as well. So I think he or she has to realize that the need for being able to resolve conflicts, be politically neutral, and be able to unify would be my top points. We're disjointed, and we need someone who can come in and just put teeth in the game and unify, bring unity to the city.
Yeah, absolutely.
I apologize.
Well, I'm speaking as someone who listens from home a lot, and I know.
Do you want me to repeat all of that? I'll do it again.
But when you're at home trying to watch, or if I watch this later, it'll be really hard to hear, so I'm just...
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Kathy.
Thank you.
Thanks, Carolyn. Member Edwin.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. I believe in my considerations is the biggest challenge that any manager will have is to set up the proper budget to run the city of Deltona. The recently fiasco of the last budget that was not approved cannot happen again. Therefore, the new manager has to concentrate on getting all the department director, the accounting personnel, and educate the commissioners as to the need for the budget in order to fulfill all our needs. Everybody wants this, everybody wants that, but without money, we cannot do it. And I think that's the biggest challenge. He needs to have a strong leadership, a strong background in budgeting and business management in order to understand that he's going to have some, pushback on certain increases here, certain increases there, certain cuts here, certain cuts there. But he needs to take all the department directors' input in a timely manner, pass it through the system, get it, reviewed by the commission before they come to vote on it, and not to vote out a thing that they already have agreed in principle and not having passed that budget at that time, which created a shortfall on the major issue for this city, which is the lakes, the flooding of many areas due to the lack of stormwater projects that cannot be completed in order to help the city to stay below water, okay? So I think that will be his biggest challenge, to ensure that he has the proper budget knowledge in order to establish the proper needs for this city if we want to continue growing. And that's it.
Excellent. Very good. Thank you. Member Emma.
Yes. I agree with everyone, what you've said so far. I definitely think one of the biggest challenges that the city manager will face is unifying the city commission. It's a shame that what's going on right now, it hurts our image, and what happens, it's going to hurt. Businesses are not going to want to come here. They're not, and we need to change it. We need to unify the city commissioners in order to bring business to the city. We need to build trust. Yes. Unify everyone. And I think that's, and along with what Edwin said, definitely a balanced budget. And there's a lot of things that he's going to be dealt with, that he has to deal with. The water, the flooding, the infrastructure, bringing in commercial. But we need to improve our image. And this commission needs to be unified.
Very good. Thank you. Member Troy?
Now it's my turn to echo everyone. I'm going to preface this by saying one of the characteristics, I think, I know it's the next question, but it's kind of critical for me here. Someone is going to have to understand that they need to look at all the challenges you're hearing and understand that we need someone that can look at these challenges as opportunities, because a lot of them are opportunities. And so I think that's going to be a real key part of that. But to echo a lot of this, I think when I think about challenges for the individual of the city manager, who that person is and what they're going to have to face every day, they're going to be public facing, which I don't believe is a common need for city managers. I think that's probably a unique requirement for city managers to have to be such a public facing figure, and I think we're going to need that from someone at least in the very beginning to get through a lot of these opportunities. Community engagement, as you've heard a lot of, and to that lend, I would also kind of flip that a little bit. It's not just about allowing the community to engage with us as they want to in our meetings, but it's also more to me about getting more of the community to engage, so that we can encourage those people that have watched this happening and said, well, why bother anymore? And they stay home and they don't bother to get involved and they don't send emails. I think a part of that challenge is encouraging more of the community to become engaged as part of that. I think as a leader, a manager, as a CEO of sorts, right, of the city, one of the largest challenges they're going to come into is they're going to be walking into a city that has a substantial number of high-level openings across many departments, including department chairs or department heads. And I don't know that that's, and again, that's not I think it's a unique thing for a city manager to have to walk into, is having to almost immediately hire, I think, at least 4 critical department heads that need to be kind of, dealt with. Whether that's an internal candidate is great, but we have a lot of acting and interim and people doing 3 departments at one time, and that's going to be a huge challenge for anyone to be, as a manager, to have to hire that many people out of the gate. I'll also echo, the thing you've heard, I think, from almost everyone up here. I'll just call it a fractured commission. And for whatever that means to whoever's out there and how that, has to be a play. I know city managers are very used to working with commissions because that's how they work, but coming into essentially a fractured commission, I think, is going to be a very high challenge for some people. I would say, just in general, I know there's, I think after hearing everyone speak tonight, your list of the problematic departments is all of them on some level. But I would say my top 3 departments, I think, need the most, restructuring or work or whatever you want to call it, would be the Code Enforcement Department, the Deltona Water and Stormwater, and which kind of wraps into infrastructure a lot. And then this land use and zoning, economic development, land use, zoning, all of that kind of rolls into one. We're going to definitely need someone who fully understands land use, development code, rezoning code, but specifically for Florida, especially with what's happening in the state level with SB 102 and other legislative initiatives from the state that impact very heavily what can be zoned, rezoned, and not within different cities and municipalities. So we're definitely going to need someone who's up to that kind of a challenge as well. And I'll leave that list at that for now.
Thank you, Troy. Vice Chair?
So I've got a few things written down to kind of go off of what you said with working with the commissioner. Anybody that comes in has got to get used to working for 7 managers. Anybody in a professional setting is used to working for 2 or 3 bosses, impressing the rest. But they've got 7 managers. So some of the specific challenges that I wrote down kind of piggyback off of the first question, but the existing and the opportunity for recreational growth. The challenge with that is that we've already got infrastructure here. We've got facility infrastructure that is aging, that needs to be updated, needs to be modernized. And we can't just build more parks without paying for more parks, and I think a piece of that, and it'll touch on a couple of the other ones, is this person has to be able to seek outside funding, whether it's private industry, local funding sources, federal funding sources. That's going to be a challenge. Is not transferring that burden onto the residents, but using economic value to pay for some of it. And then increase opportunities for young families. There is a lot of communication, and it's been mentioned that there's a lot of opportunity for the aging community. But I think that the direction that the city is moving and the growth that the city is having in a residential manner basically demands that the city needs to put in a little bit more effort. The city manager, one of his challenges will definitely be creating and providing opportunities to bring in young families. Just like residential communities are a component of the tax base and commercial is also important, a subsection of that residential community is your fixed income community. And we need the younger families in the city in order to really make the city what it can be. Some of the other things, Kathy said it best with firm and stable leadership. That's kind of self-explanatory. Somebody that can come in and take a look at a lot of the policies and procedures. Just being involved with an ordinance that passed recently. The city tries to reinvent the wheel anytime we try to do something. Anytime we try to update a policy or procedure, we try to reinvent the wheel. We spin our wheels doing that. We waste money doing that. So somebody that has the humility and ability to lean on other resources and the agencies around us and look to them to see what works and what doesn't work. It's been mentioned a few times, infrastructure, water, sewer, drainage is a major one. County facilities or city facilities are another big one. At the same time that these are challenges, they also are something that need to be looked at with a realistic eye. It's not realistic to go and say that we just experienced a 500-year storm or a 1,000-year storm and everybody needs ditches cleaned out. We need major drainage improvement, stuff done within the next year before next hurricane season. That's not realistic. So somebody that can come in and evaluate, do risk assessments on each of the projects or each of the needs to prioritize them. That'll definitely be a challenge.
You can say anything?
I've got a couple more left. I'll try. Along with some of the infrastructure issues and concerns, we've got to have the appropriate agency growth. So the city's got to grow as a government agency in a way that matches the community. We can't approve all these houses without approving fire stations. We've got to build. We can't have an 11-minute response time. So balancing the development with the need for additional infrastructure, additional recreational opportunities, or so be it. I mean, those metrics are identified in our comp plan. So, again, we're not reinventing the wheel. We just need to make sure that we're following the policies and procedures that we already have, and if those don't work, then we need to update them. And then another one that was brought up by Jeff was code enforcement. There's got to be some congruency within the community. You mentioned that it's kind of a drawback when you maintain your yard, your neighbors maintain your yard and your house, but you have to drive through an area where nobody really cares. And so when you invite people over to your house, you don't want to.
Christmas time, so it kind of looks good.
When it's dark, after sunset. And so that's a challenge that the city manager, the next city manager will have to face. And then something I don't think has been said yet, the next city manager will really need to set the expectation with the community regarding what the city's role and responsibility is in the community. The city is not here to take care of all of your needs. We're not the street sweepers. That's a piece of it, but you don't, I see oftentimes, trying not to, but seeing it on Facebook, that the expectation currently seems to be that the city's going to take care of everybody's needs, and that's not realistic. It's definitely not sustainable, and I think that's going to be a major challenge that the next city manager will have to face on day one, is setting that expectation with residents. And then sticking to it and not caving, because that's where we'll have problems. Did I leave you anything?
All right, I think I got a couple. My apologies if anything's repetitive. I was trying to cross out as people were speaking, but I might have missed a few. So the first challenge that I see is we need someone that's going to come in and is going to quickly be able to develop a strategy, a 1, 3, 5-year strategy, because our city has really lacked that for a while, or if we've had one, we just haven't had someone who has stayed long enough to actually implement it. Our population has long exceeded the capacity of our infrastructure. We've heard that multiple times. I see this being a big challenge, right? Someone who's going to come in and who is going to, I don't want to say the Italian word I'm thinking of, but who's going to have the courage to make the difficult decisions even when they're not the popular decisions. Right? And that's not easy to do. It's easy to say, but it's anybody who's been in a leadership position, it's not something most folks are doing day one, right? But you have to set that expectation that you're our leader and we're going to turn to you to make the right decisions even when they're not the easy ones to make. Dealing with and navigating very strong personalities and egos, and that goes both ways. That's for some members of our commission, but also for some of our residents, right? So that's definitely a challenge. But also being consistent, right? I think, we heard it a little bit, Jeff touched on it a little bit with code enforcement, is sometimes it's enforced over here, it may not be enforced over there. And again, not to say that that's right, wrong, or indifferent, or someone is or is not doing their job, but I think because we do have such constant turnover, it's hard to get consistency in place. Sometimes you're just treading water, right, just to make it through the day. Another challenge is, and this kind of ties into making the difficult decisions, is being comfortable with the uncomfortable. Because I'm going to predict that easily the first year, possibly longer, it's going to be a very uncomfortable position, right? There's going to be a lot that needs to be vetted out, a lot that's going to need to be navigated. So being comfortable with the uncomfortable, right? Making those tough decisions, saying no when it's appropriate, and also understanding it's not always just the what you say, but also the how you say it, right? I think a lot of us up here have been in management and leadership positions before, and it's the way you communicate it, right? If the no is a no and nothing's going to change that, maybe just to give a little clarity and explain why it's a no. And sometimes just giving that little bit of backstory helps people understand. We heard a lot about unifying the commissioners. I would also add unifying the commissioner and resident relationship, because from the residents' perspective, right now it's them against them and it's them against us. There's no unity at all, right? So that's something we really have an opportunity to improve on. Integrating themselves into our community, and here's what I mean by that, right? So Glenn, I don't know that I've ever thanked you for this, but thank you, because you do a very nice job since you've been interim city manager. Of whenever we have a community event, you're there, you're interacting with the residents, you're saying hello, you're being present, right? You're being part of our community, and we notice that and we appreciate it. But we've had city managers before that are not, right? So again, that just sometimes feeds into that division, so to speak, right? The residents want someone that they feel like is part of their community. And then my last item, I believe, and I do truly believe that this is, oh no, I'm sorry, two other things before the last is taking a look, and I think Davison touched on this a little bit, but our life safety services, right? We've grown so much. Have we made sure that our life safety services have stayed consistent with that or compliant with that, and traffic concerns? But what I believe is our biggest challenge currently is the transformation our city needs, and what I'll say is the rebranding our city needs. I think most of us have in one way, shape, or form talked about the reputation that our city has. You know, we've got some really great residents. We have tremendous staff. I'll say that again, right? We have tremendous staff. But unfortunately, our city, because of the instability and some of the dysfunction that's visible, you know, that's how we're portrayed. We're portrayed as dysfunctional. We're portrayed as being disconnected. And we desperately need a rebranding. So someone who's going to come in and recognize that challenge, but know that, again, sometimes out of your biggest challenges comes your biggest opportunity, right? There is an opportunity there for them to really do a rebranding and mold our city into the greatness that I know it can be. That's all I had. And then I think our last topic is, what are the characteristics that the best candidates need to be successful? So we'll just keep it consistent. Troy, we'll start with you.
Okay, I'm going to try and do this more of a bullet list just for expediency here. I think a term that kind of boils down a lot of what we've heard tonight is we need a legacy builder, someone who wants to build a legacy for themselves, their career, but also a legacy for Deltona. I think we're ripe for being able to build a legacy for the future for ourselves. We need someone who can enable department leaders to be strong and independent. We need someone that can do that and build an independent department so that they can fully function with the trust that they can put in these department heads to make sure that they have the capacity to do what they need to do. We need someone who's not just an administrator. We need someone who's like a legacy builder, someone who's more than just a run-of-the-mill, I can administer, I can manage, I can do that. We need someone much more than that. We need someone that has solid functional skills across multiple departments. Like I think I said specifically code enforcement, water, stormwater, land use, things of that nature. We need someone who understands that they need the ability to recognize the capacity of what we can do here. They need to be able to recognize the capacity of our department heads, what we need for them and from them. We need someone who, again, like I said before, sees the challenges that we're talking about tonight as opportunities that they can work with. But I think most importantly, and I would maybe foreshadow a little bit to say, I would suggest any applicant at some point in the process comes forward with this as part of their initial application or submittal. Someone who takes all of this input, which I know we've asked for Superman and Super Lady all wrapped into one, but I think someone who can look at all of this and know where to start. Recognize that what we're talking about here, I think, are a lot of cascading issues, right? Where one challenge or issue will build into another one, and if you fix this one, it makes this next one easier to fix. But being able to recognize the steps and the process to get to which one to start with is going to help get the next one done faster and better. That's a huge challenge, I think, for a lot of people. So I would start with that, and I'll just leave it there so I can leave some stuff. But I would also just ask, I don't know if it's appropriate, Chair, that when we're done with this, I would love to hear Glenn's input on these topics as well, being that he's been with the city for a number of years and in this position for the last too many months for him, I'm sure. I think his input would be useful in these three topics.
I think that's a great idea. I can't force Glenn to do anything. He's his own person, but if he's willing to share, I think we would all love to hear it. So think on it, Glenn. We'll get to you when we go through the rotation. All right. right, Chair Emma?
Yes.
Or I'm sorry, Member Emma? You want to switch seats?
No, I'm good. So what are the characteristics that the best candidates need to be successful? Definitely communication skills. I'll tell you, working with the city for over 24 years, I've seen a lot of the city managers that we've had, and definitely communication skill is a top one for me. I've seen them different types of communication skills, and they have to have the ability to really explain the policies and proposals and to different peoples and groups, and to listen to opinions and suggestions. They have to be able to never assume. If you don't know for sure, find out. Diplomacy, tactfully handle disagreements, objectively listen to all the sides and the issues. We definitely need to bring leadership. We need to unite the staff, not only the commission, but obviously the employees. Be a problem solver, identify the problems, reviewing and relating the information to develop and evaluate options and implement solutions. And of course, time management skills. I mean, I know he's going to face a lot of challenges, and prioritizing those is important. That's all.
Thank you, Emma. Member Edwin?
Yes, I believe the candidate needs to have experience. There's no substitute for experience. Managing a city compatible in size, that has good knowledge of urban development, of course, integrity, strong leadership, a strong backbone to shepherd the city department directors and the commissioners, vision for the city, where he wants to take us, length of the stay, how long he wants to stay with us. Hopefully, your goal is 10 years, and hope we could stay somebody for 10 years. We have too much turmoil in the last at least 12 years, and I live here for almost 20 now. And mostly, like I said earlier, a strong knowledge in budgeting that will help the city move forward.
Thank you very much.
Well, since you're asking us our opinions for our unicorn, we have a big unicorn list. We want someone with strong business management skills, conflict resolution, human resource management, and staff development. Someone who can be involved in community development and outreach programs. Conservative decision-making, financially conservative decision-making. Willingness to be accountable by providing reports of all departments, being transparent, complete accountability to the mayor and dais, and vice versa. Hold our city attorney accountable. Recruit an in-house city attorney. Give us an attorney that isn't going to rob us. Recruit highly qualified staff, not temp services, to fill all the vacancies that we have in this city. Someone who has experience in land development and proven experience working with government entities, local, state, and at the federal level. So that's my unicorn list.
That's a good list. Member Courtney?
Can you hear me? Because I thought I was talking before. Okay. So one of the things that I think is really important is, especially with working in government, and we all know how things move slowly, and we've got these big lofty goals and these things that we want taken care of, someone who's able to strategically break down the steps that need to be taken into smaller elements that can actually be moved forward with in a manner where the group is not getting overwhelmed by what needs to get done and then not able to actually take steps to move forward. So the ability to really take those baby steps and make movements. The second big thing I think is, we've kind of talked about like communication and, being able to be the person who can make the decisions, even if you're not liked or popular. I think a lot of that plays into the ability to get buy-in from people. I think that you don't have to be the person who people don't like because of the decision you make if you make the effort to get buy-in from all of the different groups and parties. And there's ways to do that, and there's people who are definitely very skilled in it. That's it.
Great, thank you, Courtney. Terry?
So I would say just a lot of the things you guys said have been great. Long-term commitment. Obviously the city's had, I believe, around 18 or 19 city managers now. We've had many of them that have left. There's various reasons. We all know that. But our citizens deserve somebody who's committed to our city and our community. Somebody that wants to help Volusia help us to be the example in Volusia. We keep talking about we're the largest city in the area and the second largest, which I didn't realize, in Central Florida. Then we should be the city that people are looking to and going, I wonder how they do it over in Deltona, instead of, oh, did you hear about Deltona this week? I mean, we need somebody who is going to set us apart. And obviously this unicorn, as you said, isn't going to be able to do it as an army of one, but it's going to be casting vision for the city, helping with the help of the commissioners, of course. It's not like they're the only person that should have a vision, but they need to harness that vision and be able to lead us as a city forward and have that commitment to be here, 5 years, 10 years, whatever, not, okay, I'm going to take off in 12 or 13 months when it gets tough, or I made so-and-so mad, or whatever. But to me, it's to set us apart and help us to be that example in our region, basically. And then I'm not going to reiterate everything everybody else said, but there was a lot of really good points. And that's it for me.
Thank you, Terry. Member Larry?
I would reiterate some of the same things that both Troy, Edwin, and Courtney and Terry said about we need someone who's experienced, someone who can prioritize and go about solving these things. We need someone who understands cause and effect relationships, who definitely has communication skills, who's committed, sensitive to needs, but yet will respond and not react to criticisms or the problems. And definitely one thing that would work a lot well for what we need is for conflict resolution, and they definitely are going to need a sense of humor.
Yes.
Exactly. That was great.
That was really good.
Member Jeff?
Everything every one of you said gets a stamp. It's all on point. But the one thing, the leadership skill is definitely a thing, but how to deliver the message. Because you can deliver something one way and another way and piss everybody off, or everybody going, yeah, I'm okay with that.
Right.
So I have to deal with that every day. So you've got to deliver that message. And the one other thing I'm concerned, and I hope you all ask this in the interview process, if someone comes in, if they're not familiar with the area, make sure they've done their homework on Deltona and what's going on. When I go see a customer, I already know everything when I go in to see before I get there. Because without having that in your back pocket and be proactive about Deltona, I wouldn't be comfortable with someone coming in who didn't know about Deltona. So that's all.
No, that's great. Thank you. Member Kathy?
Thank you. A lot of reiteration stuff. I had a supervisor years ago who would say to us, you've got to know your people. And I think we need somebody who is a motivator with these strong leadership skills without micromanagement, because we've had that and we don't need that. But I think there's an opportunity to do some better coordination interdepartmentally, because some of these projects that needs to be done are truly run through more than one department. So, to use your departments and your the people within to the best efficiency for the good of the city. I would also like to see someone that believes in an evaluation system, and that's from the top all the way down. And I know that's been cut out of a lot of places, but honestly, how do you decide who's doing a good job, who's not, who gets the raises, who gets the promotions, the demotions? I mean, you have to have something. You have to have a kind of standard. If you don't, then it's called favoritism. So you have to have something consistent, and that includes the city manager has to have that as well. And I believe integrity was mentioned. Absolutely. We don't need somebody with political agendas. We don't need somebody who's going to be in the good old boy or girl system. We do need experience. But when it comes to experience, do we want somebody who's old, set in their ways, done things the same way over and over again? We don't want somebody fresh out of school, but I think if we bring somebody in who's a little bit younger that can think outside of the box. This is Florida, and if we're bringing in somebody from out of town, I know it was said earlier, Florida can't be treated like Boston, like New York. We have very, very unique situations down here, from the geology of the state on up. So we also need, we've talked about public relations. You need to be able to, the communication, and not only like to help rebrand our city, but bring others into our city. Like you said, we have people, we do have surrounding cities that are neat to see and fun to go, day trip, but we need to find stuff and advertise that and want people to come here to see what we've got. So bring them in, make them spend their money here. And the ability to work with others includes the surrounding areas, the county, the school board, the surrounding cities, because really, where does Orange City and Deltona stop? Can you make a dotted line and say we need to? I think we need to start working together with these surrounding areas for the greater good of all. And somebody who can say West Volusia, East Volusia's got the money, but we're over here. We got the people. I would like to see them have the ability to with different experience. And I know I'm asking for a lot, but experience with collective bargaining, experience, but basically experience with people. I think I've covered everything that I wanted to cover. Your turn.
Thank you. Vice Chair?
Okay, so sorry, this is a list that is growing and shrinking. And at the organization that I work for, we've got printed on the wall a statement that says we'll do the difficult today, the impossible tomorrow. And that's what we need in a city manager. And I think some of the characteristics that we'll see in a successful candidate city manager will be somebody that's fierce, somebody that's going to go out there and not shy away from those difficult situations, but will run towards them. The faster that they can acknowledge them and handle them, the easier they will become. Somebody that's determined, that doesn't give up easily, someone that's firm but gentle. Stable was mentioned earlier. I think somebody that can provide stable leadership is going to be critical, not just for staff, but for the community. Somebody that's humble, somebody that can admit when something isn't perfect, something that maybe they have done or said that they've gotten more information on, and can admit when that's not the best. Somebody that is detail-oriented, but also maintains the big picture. You can get lost in the weeds. You've got to be able to see the forest for the trees. And something that's really important, I think, is the ability to explain and share and present complicated information in a simple way, in a clear way. Our budget issue that we've had, I think one of the major pieces that could have really cleared a lot of that up is just being able to present it in a way that residents could, connect the dots, and it wasn't. And that's not just with the budget. That really applies to all facets of the position, with staff and the community. And then everybody's mentioned experience. I think that we need somebody that has enough experience to know when to react, somebody that's not going to respond, somebody that's not going to react prematurely, somebody that can respond to a situation without reacting. And I really think that experience doesn't necessarily have to come from somebody that is tainted by their previous government experience. If it's somebody that has worked closely in a similar government type agency or something associated, I don't know that the experience has to be within a city government or a county government. And with that, you get different perspectives. You get somebody that can think outside the box. And I think that's going to be a characteristic of a very successful city manager.
Great, thank you. In the interest of time, I'll just try to bullet point my list. So someone able to successfully manage and set expectations with strong personalities from day one, right? Because you want to develop those good habits. Decisiveness, so the ability to make and equally as important, execute decisions even when they're not popular and when under pressure. Empowerment and appropriate delegation to others, because there's too much to do for the city manager to do it all on their own, right? So you've got to have trust in your staff and give them an opportunity. Resilience, right? We have some tough issues, and we've got some strong personalities and some passionate residents, so we need someone with staying power and resilience. Agility and flexibility, right? So being open to new ideas and not stuck in that's the way we've always done it. And I'll just add on to echo a little bit of what Davison said. I'm not of the opinion that it has to be someone with previous city manager experience. I think we can get some really good candidates in a corporate background in the private sector with business operations, and that may give some different perspective and some diversity of opinion and just ways of doing things. What I do think is more critical is leadership experience, because that's not something that's easily teachable, right? You've either already developed it and you've earned it, or you haven't. And then the last, and this, I struggled with how to say this, so I'm going to say it and then give a little bit of an explanation of what I mean, is no ego, right? And what I mean by that is, this is not the time for ego, right? It needs to be checked at the door. It's the time for us to understand we're all working towards a common goal, right? And that goal is leading our city to improvement and greatness, which will require tremendous partnership, collaboration, influencing, and negotiation skills. And my experience is if you're walking in the door day one with a huge ego, those skills typically don't follow. And that was the last of my list. So I think we had a request, Glenn, not to put you on the spot. If you're comfortable sharing, if you've got anything you would like to add, or if not, you can also, if you want to speak privately offline with.
We've already talked a little. Yeah, Colin and I have already met, and I gave him my perspective. I just want to echo everything that everybody else here has said. But one of the main things is somebody with good leadership skills and with a lot of integrity and a lot of patience. I didn't hear anybody, I don't think, mention patience, but I can tell you In this position, it requires all the above, everything y'all have mentioned, along with the patience. Sometimes, and I like what Davidson said about reaction, so you need to think about things and make the right decision and not just have a knee-jerk reaction, if you will, to a lot of things. Some of the things, y'all know my background is public works and utilities, and so I definitely will work with the new city manager that comes in, he or she, to try to help transition this position. We do have a lot of vacant positions. That's one of the priorities I'm trying to work on now before he or she comes. So hopefully it will be less of some of these things that they will have to deal with. But I think y'all hit on pretty much every point. I think Colin would probably agree with that, of the things that I've said previously to him one-on-one. So I don't really, in the interest of time, I'm just going to back off and be quiet. If anyone wants to speak to me about those things at any other time, we can do that. It's not a problem. Thank you.
Thank you, Glenn. Appreciate it. Does anyone have any other questions?
Right here.
Yes, sir.
If there's orientation for a new city manager coming in, that they go to some kind of course so they get familiar with the city and the requirements of the city?
Yeah, there are programs available through some of the agencies or the entities that we're members of with government. There are courses and there are things, and not initiation. What am I thinking of? No, not hazing either. But there are those types of things, and I will do my best to facilitate, helping and getting that done. I think it's going to be great, with all your input. I've heard some really good stuff here tonight, stuff that I didn't even think of, being honest with you. And I've thought about this, and I would have been more prepared if I'd have known y'all wanted me to say something. So thank you.
I think to kind of speak to Edwin's point, I think the city's a member of a lot of different professional organizations, and being familiar with some of them, they all have, or almost all of them have, some sort of courses or training geared towards city management, county management, elected official type deals. I think that's for current leadership. That should be a priority, something that we should encourage the new city manager to participate in and take advantage of.
Yeah, I think that would be something that the commission would, bring up in the interviews. I would suggest that would be top.
I think it's a perfect opportunity.
Great. Thanks, Davidson. Member Carolyn?
To the point of rebranding that was brought up earlier, this candidate probably should be able to have media experience, being able to speak with the media, being able to get us a positive media attention, be able to be in front of a news crew. When we have news crews come here for the wrong reasons, we'd like the news crews to come here for the right reasons. And so someone who's able to speak with the media in a positive way and put the face of Deltona before our state, because we have a black eye, and if we had a good media representative, that could help us a lot.
All right. Mr. Basinger, any parting comments?
I think this is probably the most complete list I've ever seen. So thank you. It's you all have been great to work with and very helpful. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
I so move.
All right. Motion made by Member French.
Second.
Seconded by, I believe, Member Kathy. All right. Meeting adjourned.
As the chair and vice chair, do you guys have to coordinate your clothing colors?